If you watched any recent videos, then you know already, I entered the Transcontinental race, didn't get the result that I wanted. In fact, I didn't even finish. So in this video I wanted to share the 5 things that have been on my mind, things that I'm going to change in the next weeks, months, over the winter, that should give me a much better chance at finishing these events next year. Hopefully. And it is a gorgeous sunny day, so let's go. And some of them, for me, bombshells really. I think 5 that I'll be changing. My actual ride today will be quite short, to be honest. The reason that I scratched from the TCR was because of knee injury. The last 3-4 weeks have been spent rehabbing that knee injury, and it's a lot better. This week I did a training session and spent an hour, essentially at threshold, trying to aggravate the knee, and it was fine. So today, I'm going for a few hours and see how it holds out. Equipment wise, I'm riding my Specialized tarmac, S-Works SL7, custom painted by Fat Creations, and every time I ride this bike, I'm instantly in a good mood. Getting out for a few hours for the first time in several weeks, it feels so good. So much fun. If you're familiar with the term feeding the rat, then mine is gnawing at me inside and it's definitely overdue a feed. So we'll give it a little bit today, and if it goes well and pain-free by the end, I'm gonna go for a longer one next weekend. Looking forward to that already. And a lot of you already know that the issue was my right knee blew up to twice the size during the race. So the last few weeks have been spent doing my physiotherapy, and for those of you in America, physical therapy, and it's much better. There's really no secret to healing overuse injuries, as long as you don't completely blow them apart. Just be good, do your exercises, and surprisingly quickly, you'll be on the road to recovery. I'm about 4 weeks now? 4 weeks since the injury. Feeling pretty much fine. But I'm just at the point where I need to strength test the knee over longer distances. So, see how we get on. Just heading into the country now, into the South Downs National Park. So I better get cracking really. This ride's gonna be over before I know it. 5 things. And some of them, for me, bombshells really. Big changes that I didn't really expect to be making, but I'm gonna. There may not all be changes that you can relate to or agree with or want to action, but possibly some of them are things you should be doing, so let's get into it. But in true YouTube style, I'm going to leave what I think, for me, is the biggest bombshell change to the very end. So, stick around. I think what I'll do, I'll cover them off kind of in chronological order as to when they came up and when I got to deal with them. I'm riding into a headwind at the moment and I'll turn around soon, so the wind noise should die down soon. The first thing I'll bring up is essentially around my condition. I feel like over the last few years, I've got pretty fit. Riding seriously for about 7 years. My endurance is better and better. My fitness is pretty good. And I generally get my body into pretty good shape at the start of the season. But it's obviously not perfect. I don't think it's perfect for anybody. But I do feel like I'm wasting time. And it's valuable time. I just turned 40. So by no means to opt for this game. But I'd still rather be making the best use of every season. I'm considering hiring a coach for a couple of reasons. the last few years, I tried over winter doing mostly strength and conditioning. I didn't feel like it went that well for me, really. I didn't get much stronger by the start of the next season. I've spent other winters doing intervals, trying to get as fit as possible, no strength and conditioning. I'm trying different things, I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to formulate the best approach for me. And I'm starting to think, every season I do this, it's another year. So I'm considering getting a coach, take the guesswork out of this, and help me try to get a balance between my fitness and my condition. As of right now, I have joined a gym, so once my knee is rehabbed, which I think it is now, I can move on to strengthening. One thing I will say, that winter I spent doing mostly strength and conditioning, I didn't have any injuries that year, had none. I rode Paris-Brest-Paris to the start, the whole course, and home again. Must have ridden over 2,000k and felt great. And by the end of it, I was getting stronger and stronger. There's a lot to be said for that. So that's point number one. Stop wasting so much time and get some help. I love this place so much. I think we're pretty lucky. I love riding in mountains. I love dramatic landscapes. But here in the South Downs, I think I've got a good mix of a nice rolling terrain, some pretty steep climbs, not long ones, but it is lovely. Okay, knee update. Right now, I've ridden further than I have at all since the TCR. I've only been riding an hour at a time max, and it was sore until this week. Got a bit of a test coming up now. There's a climb very soon. It's a bit of a wall, so let's see how this goes. All right, here we go. See how this goes. It's not very long, just quite steep. Although my Garmin says -2%, I don't think so. It's not that bad a climb, really. Just a few minutes effort, goes up to about 12%, but good test nonetheless, and zero pain. Got a couple of longer ones coming up, so wish me luck. Let's carry on up. I'm basically on the side of Butser Hill, and in the South Downs, that's the highest hill we have. So go up and down this a couple of times. So while I'm going up, change number two, second thing I'll change. And this became apparent really quickly, pretty much on the start line, but in the first few hours. I know that my setup is quite heavy, so I need to do some work. Depending on the race, obviously, different conditions require different amounts of gear. But a race like the Transcontinental Race, through some pretty hot countries, I think there are some certain things necessary to have as a bit of a safety blanket, but there is a lot I can trim down. Numerous items that I carry, I'm gonna get some more lightweight versions. Realised very quickly, even though I didn't go for the Alps into the Balkans, the sleeping bag was completely unnecessary. It's a lightweight sleeping bag anyway. Still, the bulk of that, too much. the airbed too bulky, things like that. I'm going to trim my setup down. One thing I've always wondered is how the people at the front go so lightweight, and I think it's a really good way to benchmark what you carry. I'm not saying I can get the same pack size and weight as them and suddenly win, but there has to be some things you can learn and gain. One thing I've always wondered, where do they sleep? What are they carrying sleep-wise? I saw a really helpful video from Josh Ibbott on his setup, and compared to what I'm carrying for sleep, his is much lighter and makes a lot of sense. So basically, I can trim my setup down and get it down by several kilos, I'm sure, which will make all the difference. My view on that until recently was the weight isn't all that important, and a lot of the time it's not. When you've got 4,000k to ride and about 4 or 5 Everests, trimming your setup weight down just makes sense. I'm going to be doing work on that over the winter in buying gear, having a range of gear, so that if the conditions are the same as this year, I reckon I can get at least 5 kilos off my setup. My bike was 22 kilos roughly with water. Just too heavy. So I know some people would disagree and say you want to have a sleeping bag if it hits the fan, and there's a line for everybody on how light you want to go, and based on my experience I'm going lighter. But if you've got any tips on ways you found to get your setup lighter, I'm not the expert here. I'm not here to educate everybody. There are people that have got less experience than me, but a lot of you watching this are far more accomplished than I am. So if you've got your own things, ingenious solutions to get your pack weight down, put them in the comments, show off a bit, and help everybody else, because that's what this channel really is. I want to be better and complete events and races, so it's a really good way. We can all help each other. I'm almost at the top of this climb. If you're watching this and you're not already subscribed, then consider joining us. I put a video out every week, usually on a Thursday. So if this is interesting, not completely boring, then consider hitting subscribe, join us, and hopefully see you next week. Back to the video. So I might see if the little coffee shop's open, see what we get. But the knee's feeling really good, so I'm happy. Lovely. That's better. It's a bit of a naughty boy. I brought loads of Velo Forte with me, discount in the description, but I want a cake, so why the hell not? So I'm at the top of Buster Hill right now, I'm gonna roll down and then back up over the hill again and then home, so see how we get on. It's not a bad view, is it? Well, that was fun. It's a very steep descent and very gravelly. If you're local to Portsmouth, that's Harvesting Lane. You probably know that name. All right then, thing number 3. Third thing that crossed my mind is having a contingency to get home. Because we are talking specifically about ultra racing. If you're in a race that potentially crosses an entire continent, you've really got to factor in the chance that you'll have to try to find your way home. The race that I was in, more than half the people that entered either didn't get to the start line or didn't make it to the finish line. So having some sort of contingency to get home is really important. And if you watch the last video that I put out, you'll see getting home was incredibly stressful. And I was getting home from Munich. I know of people that had to try to find their way home. Hello. I know of people that had to find their way home from the Balkans. One guy had to get a business class flight just to get back with his bike. So you're probably thinking, how can you have a contingency in a race that lasts 4,000 kilometers? It's not really possible. You can't plan for every eventuality. What you can do is make your life a hell of a lot easier. Certain aspects will get easier with experience. I had a nightmare with Flixbus. They're all over Europe, so chances are in future I might need them. And now I know how to deal with them, so that's really gonna help. But for the most part, you can't plan for everything. So what I decided, kind of what I did, is just to stop. At the point I know I'm scratching, I've got to stop, don't just carry on and try and bumble your way home. My plan is to go straight to a hotel and get some really good sleep and then figure out how to get home. That's something I essentially did. I stopped in Munich, got a hotel, and decided I'm gonna ride home. My knee was kinda good enough. Then when all of a sudden, it hit the fan, the knee was not having it. I tried to get home same day, and by that point I was still very tired, very sleep deprived. So that's a mistake I made. At the point I decided I've got to get public transport, whatever, get some rest, sit, formulate a plan to get home. But that's what I'm gonna do, a rule I'm gonna set for myself. But overall, I call it having a contingency. However, we know an actual contingency plan, it's not really that realistic. Save yourself some drama.
Yeah.
Straight on to thing number 4 now, getting my bike ready to start the race. I bought a fair bit of new gear, new tyres, new cassette, managed to make an 1134 cassette fit short cage derailleur. Quite happy about that. Even so, with a 5236 chain set, I don't think it was easy enough gears. Sorry, it's really windy. So thing number 4 is to make my life as easy as possible next time. I'm gonna put a compact chain set, keep the 1134. I think with a compact chain set, that'll be plenty. Tyres wise, I don't think the tyres were big enough. I had 30mm Conti tyres. Realised quite quickly I should be a lot bigger than that. Essentially, all the things that I can do to my bike to make it a bit more comfortable and a bit easier, I'm gonna do next time. More than I did this time. I'm not saying I was woefully underprepared, but definitely was immediately humbled. So next time, I'm gonna try to make it as easy on my body as possible. Thinking probably somewhere in the region 35mm tyres. We'll see. Depends on the course next year. Alright, one more hill, then I can officially say the knee is healed and I can get on with some proper training again. done. There's the final climb done. So I'm happy. The knee's recovered. I just need to do some strength work to undo the imbalances and stop it happening again. So at this point, a bit out of breath, sorry. Thing 5 that I'll be changing. For me, it's a bit of a bombshell. Might not be to you guys. But I've talked about my bike a fair bit. I love my Mason for my ultra adventures. But I'm going to be changing it. So I'm just reaching a point where I'm finding that bike is making less and less sense for the kind of racing that I want to do. I've always been into ultra cycling. That's the point of the channel, but I'm getting into ultra racing more. Next year I want to do a lot more. This year I did 2 races, both didn't go very well. Next year I'm thinking maybe 5 or 6, and I want to do gravel. Plus the TCR includes gravel. So the bike I have makes sense, but less and less sense. I'm planning to get a gravel bike, partly inspired by Robin at the TCR. Again, I'm not planning to get a gravel bike and then win, but it just makes sense. If I want to ride gravel events, TCR includes gravel. I can get some big tyres, clearance for bigger tyres on there. It's fast on the road, so I'll be changing to a carbon gravel bike. I haven't decided which one yet. I'm talking to a couple of brands, very early conversations, in the hopes that maybe someone will sponsor me and give me a frame or a bike. But if that doesn't work out, then I'll have to buy one. But who knows? In this life, you miss every shot you don't take, so why not? But worst case, I'll have to buy a frame, build it up over the winter for next year. And then the plan is for next year to enter some Badlands type events, TCR again, but ride some gravel. So that's quite a big change for me. It feels a bit like a depart from Mason. I have no commercial relationship with Mason at all, but I like the fact they're local to me. They're not a huge company. To be honest, I kind of feel like a change to carbon anyway, so let's see what happens. But that's going to be a change I'll make over the winter, and I'm quite excited, to be honest. You've probably seen in videos I put out, sometimes I ride through gravel, just rode through a gravel path now. Not to make a point, but it's quiet here. So having the opportunity to go out on adventures and ride off-road, that feels like fun to me, and it will give me more experience off-road and with gravel. With the TCR including a lot of gravel, I need all the help I can get. So thanks for watching until now. That's the 5 things that came to mind for me, and my brain's been really busy with that stuff recently. So I think with these races you can fail and go one or two ways, either never attend it again or start beavering away to improve and do better next time, and that's what I'm going to do. So hopefully stick around for the adventures, do some more events next year, and see if I can get any kind of success. Anyway, have a good week. I'll see you all in the next one.